This week on Arizona Illustrated, two brothers team up to bring you farm-to-table poultry, a backyard harvest of fruits, nuts, and seeds. And what does it mean to be a world city of gastronomy? Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. The farm landscapes of southern Arizona are some of the oldest in North America, and our local food economy has been thriving for generations. With the farm-to-table movement in full bloom, Tucsonans are enjoying many options for locally grown foods at restaurants and farmers markets. We caught up with two young farmers who are bringing the fruits of their labor directly to southern Arizonans.
Get a rhythm. When you get the blues, come on and get a rhythm.
It's a cool Sunday morning at the Rito Park Farmers Market in Tucson. Southern Arizonans are here to buy local produce and fresh meat.
Pepper, like nice coarse ground, and press it into the flesh side.
Okay.
Two local farmers here today are Michael and Luke Mutehart.
Beautiful. We sell fresh, pastured poultry to restaurants in Tucson and to customers at farmers markets.
Hello.
Do you guys have any chickens?
It's clear to us that the people that shop here really are looking for quality ingredients raised by farmers.
It was running around our pasture yesterday morning, and it's now going to be in your frying pan.
Luke Mutehart is Michael's younger brother. Together, they own Top Knot
Thank you.
Farms,
Enjoy.
a poultry operation just outside of Benson, Arizona. They are the growing farm-to-table movement.
Meat doesn't come from Walmart, and it doesn't come from plastic-wrapped containers in a dairy case. It comes from an animal. So in order to understand the farm-to-table, or to be a part of that, you really need to understand or know your farmer. These are probably only 2 or 3 days old, so...
These farmers raise and harvest chickens, ducks, and seasonally other fowl like turkey and guinea hen.
When you're ready.
I was very interested in doing this project because of my cooking and chef background. It was amazing to me to think about what we could offer. Sure.
Do you sell them whole?
We do. We have 3-pound birds and we have some that are smaller. Do you like smaller?
Michael graduated from a Cordon Bleu cooking school and went on to work in George Perrier's world-famous Lebec Thin in Philadelphia.
In my time in the French kitchens, I was exposed to things like quail, pheasant, grouse, partridge. We have a whole duck for sale today.
He's been a chef for 15 years, most recently running the kitchen at Dish Bistro in Tucson.
The steaks. I love crispy skin on a chicken. I love crispy skin on a duck. But when I cook for myself, I'm always doing a high heat cooking method, and the meat stays juicy.
Anything where you want a really thick, rich yolk, they're delicious.
The brothers are quick to share their cooking methods and recipes with customers.
Our favorite way is to cook them in a pan and get them a little bit crispy.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
While from Tucson, they did much of their growing up in Yuma. Luke, the youngest, and Michael, the oldest of 4 boys. Michael credits his parents for instilling good values in him and his brothers.
Characteristics that they've always asked us to be, honest, forgiving, compassionate, hardworking, obviously. My brothers and I are very lucky to have had that good family support system behind us, since we were little.
It kind of forces people to watch where they're walking, and
Their father, Paul, is the general manager of a large produce farm.
In Yuma, they're all family farms. They're large farms, but they're family farms. And what I wanted the boys to understand was they can work for themselves, that they can be entrepreneurs, that they don't need to work for a paycheck for somebody. They've taken it to heart, and they're very independent. It's the American dream. Give it a try.
That independent spirit is also in their mother, Jane. Her dream was that her boys be self-sufficient.
Taught them to do laundry and sew on buttons and cook for themselves. Food is real important to me and my family. I'm Italian, and I wanted my boys to learn how to cook, and they all cook.
There's even rumor of a Top Knot recipe book, but for now, their hands are full, raising birds.
This is a chick that arrived probably Wednesday or Thursday on the farm, so he's about 3 or 4 days old. So he's brand new, and he'll live in this brooder house for about 4 weeks before we put him out to pasture. And then he'll spend another 4 weeks, plus or minus, depending on what size the customer orders. And then he will become dinner.
Luke works as a site superintendent for a general contractor and is a graduate of the architecture program at the University of Arizona. He designed the brooder house and the barns at Top Knot.
No one wants to be cooped up in a dark, cold factory setting or an office setting. It's the same formula whether I'm designing a building for people or for an animal. So I have to understand what the chickens need, how they grow, what makes them happy, and that's natural sunlight, plenty of ventilation, clean drinking water, and shelter. They wake up when the sun comes up and they go to sleep when the sun goes down, and they eat when they're hungry. We don't force feed them, or we don't have lights on timers that wake the birds up to eat. They're able to experience natural life.
While they don't use any medicated feed or hormones, their birds are supplemented with a corn ration. The natural life they strive to create for them includes being pasture raised.
We want them to be able to go out and eat blades of grass and leaves and bugs and seeds. We know that that is how birds should be living. That's how they're designed to live, to be able to eat green, fresh things. And we're working on providing that for all of the birds that we produce on our farm. Providing the best environment that we can for our birds is good for the birds, and it's good for the end consumer, the people that eat the birds.
Top Knot Farms is on desert land, rural and remote, sitting due south of the Rincon Mountains.
Where we are, we don't get very many stations, but classical comes in clear, and it works for everybody. We like it, the birds seem to like it.
And I think the birds get a kick out of that too. I don't know if it makes a difference on how they taste, I doubt it, but it's a good environment.
That good environment is enhanced by Colton Riley. He's the lead farmhand, and he's been working with Luke and Michael since day one.
Really, he's a member of our family.
He's a lover of animals and nature, and that's what makes him the perfect fit for this job.
He's the shepherd of our farm.
After a good life on the farm, the birds are brought from pasture to harvest and processed by hand, one by one.
Pot should be ready for you.
The whole process takes about 5 to 6 minutes before they are chilled on ice, packaged, and refrigerated.
My brother really likes to get into the details, and he's very meticulous, which is good because we're trying to sell a premium product at a premium price, and if our product isn't perfect, we don't send it out. Part of our philosophy is that everything gets used, and what little waste there is, we compost and we put it back into our farm.
They slaughter weekly and bring their poultry to market fresh, not frozen. Along with farmers markets, their chickens and ducks are raised to order for chefs at local restaurants like Proper, Primo, The Coronet, and Augustine Kitchen.
I had one chef cook the product and say, "Wow, this tastes like chicken." Well, yeah, it's chicken. He's like, "Well, that's not what I mean. I mean, it actually has a flavor to it. It doesn't taste like the seasoning rub I used or the barbecue sauce it's smothered in. It tastes like poultry."
And on occasion, that taste is shared on the farm with friends and family. Michael says he's grateful for these times and still loves to cook.
I feel very lucky to be able to work and do this business with my brother. We've become pretty close, even though we're 7 years difference in age. I can't think of somebody else that you would want to trust more, or another person you would want to have your back and be there to help you. You know, we went to Benson to create kind of like this ideal life and situation for our chickens, and as a consequence, I myself am living the same life. You know, I'm out there in the beautiful landscape, eating fresh stuff, drinking good water. I feel extremely free to be out there, and it's that feeling that I think is the best part.
The growing movement to eat local foods can sometimes lead to your very own neighborhood, even your own backyard. Plants in Tucson's residential and institutional areas, such as the U of A, produce tens of thousands of pounds of edible fruits, nuts, and seeds each year. It's all there, just waiting for someone to harvest.
A growing metropolitan area, a productive agricultural environment. These may seem like contradictory uses of land, but in the city of Tucson and its surrounding neighborhoods, they come together under a natural umbrella. There's a bounty of food in backyard spaces and larger places, a harvest that is ripe for the picking and discovery.
Well, it's sort of an overlooked treasure on campus and in town.
It's more than you could ever even imagine.
At the University of Arizona, a coalition of groups is scoping the campus for nutritious treats, in this case from date palms. They are more than decorative desert trees adorning sororities or other buildings. UA Leaf, linking edible Arizona forests, is working with Escachita Refugee Network to harvest this salvageable produce.
This is really very exciting for me since it's my second semester working with UA Leaf. And this is really very exciting thing because we have never done date harvest.
There's a buffet of native and imported items which flourish in Arizona with extra water and care.
So I can go chronologically from when I started, which would be pomegranates, jujubes, barrel cactus, seeds and fruit, goji berries, which are also known as wolfberries, pumpkins, native squash, gourds.
And this is one of the most abundant of all. Olives, a staple in Mediterranean locations, thrive in the sunny Sonoran Desert. At a community workshop on the University of Arizona campus, interested participants learn about this plentiful resource.
And this is healthy and full with vitamin. It is so good for everybody.
Faiza Hilalian is one of the instructors. Hilalian shares her knowledge of food and culture thousands of miles away from her native country.
For 1 pound, you put 1 cup. Okay. Come on, Barbara, sit down. You want to start to eat?
Hilalian is originally from Iraq, but in 2003 she and her family fled to Syria due to the violence and turmoil in her birthland. Syria would eventually succumb to its own set of serious problems, so the family was forced to flee once again. They were eventually accepted as refugees in the United States, where they found a welcome reception in Tucson.
A hammer mill, a mill that makes flour?
For me, Tucson is very special here, and I love everything.
Hilalian, a dentist by trade in Iraq, has begun a fresh chapter in Tucson with new friends and activities, especially with Escachita Refugee Network. She has been helped in the past and is now helping others, offering her skills about different foods which are part of her heritage.
The food for me is so important, but here in Tucson, really, I found a lot of things, people don't use it.
Here's her Iraqi take on Seville or bitter oranges, which are thrown away by the bushels in Arizona.
We make juice, we make jam, we make sweet, we make money thing, and it is expensive, not cheap. You buy it, you can't find it like this here, everywhere. About your garbage, about American garbage. You pay a lot of money, okay?
She also appreciates many other plants, including date palms.
This date is very useful. You can make date honey, you can make vinegar, you can make chocolate, you can make for the leaf, you can make basket.
Hilalian and other harvesters encourage people to learn about the plants and their uses, and their message is gaining traction. At the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona, the fresh fruit fill a wholesome niche.
This is one of the programs that we're most happy with because it allows us to put some very nutritious food in the food boxes. We can always provide calories for folks that need hunger relief, but the more we can make it healthy and nutritious, the better.
The menu is extensive, and you can thank urban farmers who sowed the original seeds.
We know the plants are arid adapted, we might as well make use of them, and you get fresh, local, vibrant flavor.
Meyer lemons, regular lemons, Valencia oranges, Seville oranges, navel oranges, tangelos, blood oranges, lime quats, loquats, kumquats, calamundan limes.
All of this is especially gratifying for Tucson resident Barbara Eisworth, who proposed the urban harvesting idea in 2003. She had been traveling between Africa and the United States while working on her doctoral degree at the University of Arizona. The edible abundance in her hometown was enthralling.
Leaving a village where people experience a hunger period and returning to Tucson to see figs going to waste, pomegranates, Meyer lemons, blood oranges, was heartbreaking.
Since then, Eisworth has incorporated more than 24 nationalities into the network.
Ishkashita means working cooperatively together in Somali, and that is something that is true for us every day of the week.
The program has grown exponentially.
A couple thousand pounds to 50 tons a year is really hard to believe.
For Faisa Hilalian, however, there is another benefit.
And this is a relationship make me happy because I want to forget my past.
That's not a question. Yes.
It is not easy to leave everything, but with Tucson and Tucson people and Escashita, I am good.
It's much, much more than just the fruit. The harvesting is easy, but making sure that we're integrating refugees into our community, that we're understanding each other's cultures, language, religions, I think is where we want to go.
In 2015, Tucson was designated as a World City of Gastronomy by UNESCO, the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Though others have applied, it was the first city in the United States to receive the designation. It sounds important, but what does it really mean? And why Tucson?
When UNESCO named Tucson a World City of Gastronomy in 2015, at first glance, to some, it didn't seem quite right. Tucson has a lot of great local restaurants, but it doesn't even have the most James Beard award-winning chefs in Arizona, nor is it rated by the prestigious Michelin Guide.
People say, oh, I heard that Tucson got the designation, and I didn't know there were that many fancy restaurants in Tucson. The immediate response is like, oh my God, there is so much more than fancy restaurants in the meaning of this designation.
Maribel Alvarez helped put together Tucson's application for the designation. She explains it's important to understand the context of the word gastronomy.
In the European context, it's a much wider term. It's really equivalent to what we in folklore and anthropology would call food waste, which includes the whole set of practices around food.
When you look at the body of work around local food and around food heritage, clearly Tucson is a leader.
Most mayors speak highly of their cities. Mayor Rothschild is no exception. Some community leaders approached him about seeking the designation.
So the people that came to me were people that I had a lot of respect for. And after listening to them and their case, I said, yes, we should go for it.
So a case had to be made to UNESCO. Thinking about the entire food system of any major city is challenging. Where do you start? Well, for the purposes of this story, we'll start here, at the library.
This is an old card catalog that is getting reused as a seed catalog. As a public library service, we decided that the mission of our seed library is to make seeds available to everybody equally.
So anyone in Tucson with a library card can come and get 6 packs of seeds per month to grow their own food.
We did something different than anyone had ever done before by cataloging the seeds, just like they're a book or any item that you can check out at the library.
This innovative approach turned an idea into one of the largest seed libraries in the country, and it's a step closer to regional food security. This is something UNESCO looks at.
Since we started, we get calls and emails from all over the country, Canada, actually all over the world, asking for our advice on how to start a seed library. And this is an opportunity for everybody to contribute to our food security, to their own food security, to the region's food security, by creating this bank of seeds that is successful to grow here.
Food security is important to UNESCO. This also means access and affordability to food, hopefully healthy food for all.
The bigger the city you get to be in, and Tucson's getting to be a large city, food deserts are created, areas in the community where there really isn't fresh fruit and fresh vegetables close by.
Hello there, how are you? You look pretty today.
Well, we always worry about food. We're retired on fixed incomes. This goes a long ways to help.
This is Market on the Move, another grassroots nonprofit in Tucson. For only a $10 donation, anyone in Tucson can get 60 pounds of produce every week with no strings attached.
And it moves around, that's why it's called Market on the Move. It's to try and get the produce out to the people. We're actually rescuing this and trying to put usable, good produce in the hands of people.
From produce brokers in Rio Rico and Nogales, Pam Boyer and company get these fruits and vegetables that would otherwise go to the landfill and make them available to Tucson residents like the Platts.
This much in the store would be $50, $60 easily. And for 10 bucks, we can can it, store it, and freeze it. And it's excellent. Excellent. It helps out that way.
When you start to list all of the resources like this in Tucson, the list grows long quickly. We will not even get close to highlighting them all in this story. Tucson has integrative school gardens, mobile soup patrols, innovative culinary training programs like Caridad Community Kitchen. The Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona is recognized as a national leader. It even sponsors farmers markets. Which brings us here to the Santa Cruz River Farmers Market held every Thursday. Here you can buy all kinds of regional foods directly from local farmers. Another Tucson innovation is that people in need can purchase all this with food stamps.
It's a really, really yummy, nutritious food that you can get for free in the desert right now.
Often you'll find another nonprofit here, Desert Harvesters, educating the community.
I'm really proud of the free food you can get on your own, the free food that's just growing everywhere. There is so much to eat here in this desert.
They teach people how to harvest, process, and prepare all kinds of local things you never knew you could eat. Today, Amy Valdez Schwem is teaching people how to harvest cholla buds.
And just give it a quick brush till the spines are gone. And then I'm going to pluck it with my tongs. And from here, I'm going to boil this for about 10 minutes. And then you can just put them on a screen, and they'll maybe give them about a week to dry.
A short drive south, you find this being practiced on a much larger scale at the San Javier Co-op Farm, run by the Tohono O'odham. It's safe to say that without them, there would be no UNESCO designation for Tucson. They've been harvesting cholla in this region for a long, long time.
I have to say hundreds of years, thousands of years. You know, people are just barely realizing what we do have to offer here. But for us, it's really nothing new. It's what we've cooked, it's what we had for our people.
Ruby Rios is sorting through an ancient variety of bean that could also be the future of food production in the desert. The tepary bean is growing in popularity because it needs much less water than other legumes, can survive extreme weather, and has a high yield.
It doesn't surprise me. It just makes me feel good that we are reaching people not only within our community, but our surrounding community, that these are healthy products. They're all natural, and that they really taste good.
These beans are closely tied to the Tohono O'odham's ability to survive and cultivate in this desert. That history dates back over 4,100 years.
We're looking at Tucson's birthplace, where our city began as a small farming settlement on the banks of the Santa Cruz River more than 4,000 years ago. Tucson is the oldest continuously occupied settlement in the United States that has been archaeologically documented.
This is true. People have been living here and cultivating food longer than any other place in North America. In this historic location at the base of A Mountain, Mission Gardens was recently re-established. It was once the site of a Spanish colonial garden, and its mission is to interpret 4,000 years of Tucson agriculture.
Every day, day after day, 365 days of the year, people have been living the depth of their cultural experiences with food in this region.
So all of these individual elements and many more we didn't have time to mention add up to Tucson being recognized as a world city of gastronomy, something Tucson's leaders feel was deserved, but also something they're using as a starting point for growth and conversation rather than an end.
Everybody loves food, and we can get people around the table and food brings them together. Start a conversation. You know, what are we going to do to improve this? To be more healthy, get rid of the diabetes, get rid of the obesity. And it's good too, you know, so.
And I was thrilled that they saw the richness of our culture here and everything that we had to offer. I guess I was surprised just because we don't get that much recognition all the time. Tucson kind of goes under the radar a lot.
We're not the biggest city, but we have a richer history than most cities.
So having this designation is something that we can market as a region, and we can market it for all sorts of reasons. Yes, our fine and unique restaurants, but also our native food culture, our local food culture, our farms, and we're doing that, and that's already having an impact.
These things were always here. They were always present, and only a few people knew about it. So now we have the opportunity to connect all the dots and raise a big sort of tent under which all of these things can be seen for what they are.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. Next week, SciView is an annual project of the U of A College of Journalism. Graduate and undergraduate students evaluate science research, find story ideas, research, write, photograph, and in the end, produce a glossy magazine full of science journalism. Sound interesting? We'll introduce you to some of the students and their stories on a special presentation of Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. See you next week.